according to the recent article published on The Guardian, it cites the research that was done and the prediction that was made on that research. So that suggests that there are going to be 1.8 billion podcast listeners by 2023. And the podcast advertising industry, which is somewhere around 400 million US dollars, is expected to be at 1.85 billion US dollars by 2023 globally. Now, that is a very, very bold prediction for the industry, which has just started picking attention. But I'm very hopeful and I totally believe on those numbers because I have seen the kind of growth in podcast recently. Now, all the big giants like Spotify is betting heavily into podcasting. They have already acquired 3 podcasting companies and they have budget of 500 million. They have said they are investing into podcasting to help podcasts grow, and they are trying to build the subscription-based podcasting model within Spotify. Now, same with Google. Google also is interested in podcasting. They have launched their podcast app. Recently, they have launched web version of the podcast. And Apple Podcast is there for a while. And also, there are companies like Luminary Media that has recently raised 100 million US dollars to form a platform similar to Netflix but for podcasting. Now, all this progress is telling me that the podcast industry is hot right now, and it's growing at the faster than ever. And obviously, I have shared in the past about like why podcast is so hot, and the power of audio as a medium. Now, I don't want to get into that, but if you look at the industry, and let me come back to the India, and let's look at the scene in India. In India, I would say we haven't yet started into podcasting. We are just getting started, and that's where the huge opportunity lies. So let's say if you'd like to start a YouTube channel or start a blog today, then that's a very, very competitive area. Now, there are 500 million or maybe over 500 million blogs out there and similar numbers with YouTube channels, right? There are over 500 million YouTube creators globally. Now, the number of podcasts are only 600,000. That was something reported by Apple. But among those 600,000 podcasts available out there on Apple Podcasts, not all of them are active. So let's say there are 50 to 60% of those podcasts that are actively producing episodes, which means there are 250 to 300,000 podcasts that are actively producing content. And if we look at India, then we have 1,000 to 1,500 podcasts or even less podcasts that are actually producing content consistently. Now, look at the level of opportunity that you have if you create quality content. And when I'm organizing a lot of these kind of events, that one thing that comes on those events is we do not have quality podcast content in India. That's where your opportunity lies in. Because if you start creating quality content today, that means you have the huge opportunity to dominate the podcast industry and become podcast celebrity. So now, if you have been thinking of doing starting something or doing some content strategy, I think you cannot afford to miss putting podcast on your content strategy. Now, as I have shared about the opportunity that is out there and given you brief overview on how the podcast industry is growing, you cannot afford to miss podcast on your content strategy because that's where the huge opportunity is. So you can tell that from my passion, and you can see me talking about this for quite some time now. If you have been following me, I have been saying everybody that I come across to start a podcast because this industry is exploding right now. So in 2019, if you would like to start something, then start a podcast. Thank you so much for watching this. I'll see you in the next. Bye.